Hey everyone, welcome back to Installation 00. General update, basically. First things first, I got a lab coat. I got sick to death of getting swarf and plastic shavings and fluff and resin and all sorts of oompska all over my own clothes, so I got a lab coat to protect my own clothes. Minor point, but worth saying. General update number 4. I'm frustrated. I'm really frustrated. It's not that things are going wrong, things are going right. But I'm waiting on people. I'm waiting on other organisations, other people to do the work on their end before I can move on. So it's great that work's being done, but it leaves me sat around thinking to myself, well, what do I do now? Because I don't want to get too far. I could work on other stuff, but I don't want to get too far ahead. If I start working on things in phase 2 and start using up the money that I've already accrued for phase 2, and then something goes wrong with phase 1 and it requires more money than I was expecting, and I brick myself into a corner, basically meaning that I don't have the funds available to fix the problem, and then the project stalls, and that's no good. That's not fair on you guys, and it's not fair on me. So I could work on other things further down the line, but I want to shoot myself in the foot, to be quite honest. So in the meantime, I'm just frustrated. I got several different seamstresses, several different organisations on board effectively at the moment to try to help get stuff sorted. So working from the outside, from the inside out, skin tight undersuit. I've spoken to a seamstress. They can basically put ports onto the skin tight undersuit that would connect to the skin tight to the surface skin pads. All over the body. So there's 3 pads per muscle sensor. There's 36 muscle sensors. So do the math. That's a whole lot of ports. I'm still debating the exact way in which I'm going to go about doing this, because there are, as I've discussed before, there are 2 different ways I can do it. So one way is this is a integrated muscle sensor with the terminal pads for these to click into. So I've got 3 fresh ones there, but this one's already separate. But you just basically click them onto the buttons there, with the exception of the overlap there. So effectively, the idea would be to put these on the body where it's necessary. Then this would be effectively, there'll be buttons, poppers effectively stitched into the surface of the suit. In fact, there's actually one attached there. There you go. There's a popper there. And that would bridge the gap then between that and that. It would bridge the gap. So the idea then would be that those poppers would be on the outside of the skin tight suit, and then it would just be a case of clicking these in place with the respective microcontroller, microcomputer, which is just shield mounted on the back of it. And then that outputs a digital signal to the articulators, and you've got everything you need centralized then, or decentralized to the respective joint, whatever it is that you're going to be moving. So that was one possible variable. The concern I had, and I've noticed others have expressed the same concern. So if these are mounted on the surface of the skin tight undersuit, and then you've got all the other layers on top of that, that's going to be pressing down into the skin. You got any sharp corners, any bits that rub or anything like that? Even though the skin tight undersuit is meant to be a comfort layer and to reduce chafing and rubbing and blisters and this, that, and the other, if it's there enough and it's rubbing and it's moving or it's pressing into the skin, it's going to get uncomfortable. Of course, it's going to get uncomfortable. And the concern also is that if these experience too much pressure, they could break. And if they break, you lose power or function to that respective joint. We don't need that. So the alternative is similar idea. Pads are still put on the surface of the skin. There's still a bit that bridges the gap between the skin and the sensors, but instead we use these, which are basically that removed. They're the respective little connectors. So again, you just pop it on. They're more smoothed out. You know, once you put those two together, and you know, it's got roughly the same profile, but it's smoothed out. And that goes to a actual muscle sensor, which has already got the ports here to mount to the respective microcontroller. The idea there would be that these would say, for example, with the bicep, these would be mounted, so the pads would be on the skin, then these would click onto the top of the pads, sort of, you know, like so. The cables would be truncated through, basically looped conduiting to the back, where all of these would be mounted, all the sensors would be mounted, all the microcontrollers would be mounted, and it would be in its own protective case, so it's not likely that they're going to get damaged. Then you just have to tolerate, you know, perhaps the passive feeling of these little things, you know, being distributed over a larger surface area because of the pad, but you might get some sort of tactile feedback if it's being compressed for extended periods of time. I'm probably going to go with that option. Especially after talking to a couple of guys who have been in the military and they've worn body armor and even just quick release clips and stuff like that that's underneath the weight of the gear that they're wearing can really like be uncomfortable to the point of being a distraction. We don't need that. So I'm probably going to go with that second option. So the seamstresses I've spoken to are going to put the ports in the skin tight undersuit to allow that connection between the two, and they're also going to put conduiting on the outer arms and outer legs for the cables to be truncated through, so it's just kept tidy basically. I've asked them to make consideration of putting additional padding in just to distribute the pressure, so to speak, on the body, but they're also making every effort to make sure that the trunking goes through parts that anatomically don't go through much movement. So it's developing. Unfortunately, I can't show you that because of the restrictions of COVID. Next layer is the environment system with the active heating and liquid cooling array. Now I've still got the actual unit itself here. It's actually in a state of like disassembly at the moment because I've had a new idea in the orientation of the components involved that could save on space, save on weight, save on complexity, and save on energy, which are all good things. I'm waiting for two components to arrive on Thursday. When they arrive, I can then put the effort into making this refined environment system, which, like I say, should save space, save energy, and all the rest of it. The actual vest and bottoms themselves, because obviously I'm cooling the lower legs as well now. That is with another seamstress. They are stitching in all of the cables, all of the carbon fiber heating pads, and all of the tubing. That's all being permanently stitched in. The cable ties are being removed. It'll be much slimmer, much easier to put on and take off. That's the thing. So that's being done. In the meantime, I've still been doing my research, and I've still identified possible avenues for accomplishing the same thing, but with an off-the-shelf product. But with the cost I've currently incurred so far with doing everything that I've done, I don't want to unnecessarily waste money away, to be quite honest. Hindsight's a bitch like that. So yeah, so the heating and cooling system for the environment suit is being done. It's being sorted. The neoprene actual part of the environment suit that keeps you dry and thermally insulated. I spoke to a different seamstress again. They said that basically I wanted that hexagonal material adhered to the outside and then make it look a little bit more Spartan-esque, you know, superhero-esque, so to speak, because it needs to be. just to kind of sell the idea, so to speak. They said, under normal circumstances, if it was a normal pair of trousers and a normal top, they'd be able to do it, because they could unpick the seams, put the new material over, cut it to shape, stitch them together, and then stitch it all back together as a single garment. That would work. But they said because of the nature of wetsuits and the way that the seams are joined, there's two bits of material joined like this, rather than overlapping like a lot of garments do, like jeans and tops or whatever else, where two bits of material overlap and they stitch along it. They meet like this, and they use a special technique or a special tool, effectively, to stitch two pieces together. So it's you know, kind of a seamless join. So that they said because of that they can't do it, because the amount of, they don't have the tools effectively to be able to redo all those joins again. I argued, couldn't you just adhere the material to the outer surface of the neoprene? And they said, well, yeah, you could, which translated to me meaning, oh yeah, we could, but we can't be bothered. So I'm probably gonna have to do that myself. However, I've also spoken to a company who make custom specialist tailored suit, like neoprene suits, wetsuits, dry suits, and semi-dry suits, and everything else and in between. I've spoken to them, pitched them basically the idea on what I'm trying to achieve and what I'm going for, and they think they can help me. They think they can actually make something bespoke from scratch that does the job, which will be waterproof, airtight, be able to be sealed to the helmet, be rugged, resilient, comfortable, not inhibit movement, relatively affordable, and they might even be able to, they said they'd probably use composites, but they might be able to integrate a passive support structure into it, which is really cool, to be quite honest. So if they can do that, great. That's all big steps in the right direction. So yeah, that's another aspect that's being covered. And I think I've already said it, if not on the previous update video, on social media. I'm going to 3D print, or aiming to 3D print the helmet in titanium via a direct metal laser sintering printer, which is currently, the one in question is currently being serviced and is non-operational, and I have to wait effectively for that to be fixed until I can go and get it done. That one I can go and show you footage and record footage, so I can actually show you the process working. So, but again, it's a wait time until the machine's ready. So I'm waiting a lot at the moment. There's a lot of waiting around, and yeah. There's also a great many different avenues I can go in regards to the articulation system and the artificial muscles. Again, I'm resisting the urge to do that, because although this is driving me mad, you know, having to wait for other people to finish their job before it can come back to me so I can then move forward with what I'm doing. And under normal circumstances, I would pick up something else and I'd work on that and use my time effectively. I've scheduled aside basically hours of the week that I can put stock into doing Project MJOLNIR. And while I'm waiting for all these other bits and pieces to get finished and get sent back to me, or for me to go and collect them and this, that, and the other, I'm just waiting around for those hours that I've allotted. So I'm resisting the urge to move on and start doing other stuff because of what I've said before, where if I start doing too much work on things that are meant for phase 2, I don't want to burn through the cash that I might need for phase 1 to correct problems that I might not yet foresee. It's complicated. Very complicated. So I'm frustrated because I want to be able to show you this stuff. I want to be able to show you progress and actually show you the process. And unfortunately, right now, due to the situation, I can't. So yeah, that's pretty much the long and short. So I will be updating you again in due course with stuff of more significance. I've got a new 3D printer that I've bought that's quite separate from Project MJOLNIR, but I'm going to probably end up using it for Project MJOLNIR as well. So there is lots going on, but it's a big waiting game right now. So yeah, I'll sort some other stuff out for you to have a look at as well. So bear with.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Installation 00. This is update 5 of Project MJOLNIR. I know they're coming thick and fast. I've got kind of a build-up of excess content, so to speak, for updates. I saw there's a lot of background noise at the moment. I've got both of the 3D printers running, well, two of the 3D. I've got the resin one here running, and I've got the new. At the moment, I'm just calling it the big bastard because that's what it is. That one's running at the moment and just printing away. That's the really early beginnings of what I've been getting up to. Some of my frustrations have gone. I've received back the environment suit, the actual part that's got the cooling tubing and the heating pads in it. It's stitched in. It looks great. I'll show you that shortly. But yeah, this is like an update on kind of what I've been doing on the software side of stuff, and in design and stuff that I've been doing inside of the printers and stuff like that. Because obviously I need to get this stuff looking relatively, you know, snazzy, for lack of a better word. So I've refined the older concept of the environment suit, the environment unit. Sorry, this is what it used to look like. And the new unit is considerably different. I've managed to save on the amount of electronics that is required in order to get this thing to run, but this is kind of the scaled down version. So this has got like two large radiator blocks here, either side, which are there's no fans on them, it's passive effectively. This is going to be mounted inside of a casing system that means that this one fan is an exhaust fan that pulls air out, which will pull cooler air across the heat sink in order to drop the temperature of the hot side of the Peltier pump. Because it's sealed within itself, the only way that it can pull air in is through these. So these are actually passively cooled and allow the warm fluid that's been travelling around the suit to dump their heat into these radiators and it be conducted and convected away. So I've saved effectively a little bit of energy in regards to how much is required in order for this to function effectively. So what we basically have is we have the fan here as the exhaust. You've still got the heat sink underneath here, and on the back you've got the copper. Sorry, I'm blocking the microphone. I've got a copper water block, which is obviously copper is the most thermally conductive material, as well as electrically conductive, or one of the most electrically conductive. And underneath that obviously is the Peltier. I've managed to really get the tubing minimised down. These are the actual the ins and outs. So this is the back in from the suit that will effectively take the warmed fluid that's been moving around the body, and that dumps straight into the reservoir here, wrong end, reservoir, via this elbow joint here, which is then pumped immediately through into the pump. Then that's output effectively directly into the first cooling block, where it dumps most of its heat. It's then actually transitioned directly across to the second cooling block, cooling radiator rather, dumps the rest of its heat, and then is fed straight back in again to the copper water block where it's cooled, and then sent out of this one back into the suit. It's small. It's a very tight package size. Little heavier than the last one, but it's still tolerable. Obviously this needs to be put inside a casing, and I've designed a casing. The thing you can see on screen at the moment is actually the top cover. So you can see there's vents in the sides, either side here for the radiator blocks to be able to pull the air in through. There's going to be vent covers over the top of these. I'm printing one at the moment in the resin printer just back here. And that there is the primary exhaust vent, which will again have a vent cover over the top of it and a filter, and that's for the primary fan there in the centre. And this will literally just slip over the top of the base unit, and the base unit is this one here, which is currently printing in the 3D printer at the moment. Well, this is actually version 2. Version 1 failed rather colossally. Well, not colossally. It was just a stupid fail, basically. So that's just starting now to print the first base layers, effectively, of this unit, it would probably be faster to get it, manufactured by someone or fabricated by someone or something. I could probably even fabricate it myself, but the low effort that's involved in just clicking a print button as opposed to, call me lazy. I'm just using the tools I've got, basically. The earlier version of this looked like this. So we got obviously a sealed off end on this side, and then the open end, which is where the reservoir would have gone into this end, and then it would have been open here as well, and inside of there is where the pump would sit, and the reservoir, the back end of the reservoir, and it would all go through to the central bit here, which you can see has still remained pretty much the same from the original design here. That allows everything to basically be bolted onto it and locked in place. There's going to be an aluminium base plate put inside of this, in this centre bit as well, that will hold the actual cooling Peltier part of this environment suit in place. And then, like I said, these are the vents to the side for the fans. This failed, one, because when I got it off the print bed, I realised it's actually crooked. It's printed at a bias. So it's actually, there are parts of it that are worse than others. The latter part of the print seemed to go better, but the earlier part, it seemed to slope off. Probably my fault. I had the printer positioned too close to the wall when it first started up, and the print bed bumped against the wall, and the printer laboured against pushing its own weight against the wall from the print bed. I realised what was happening quite quickly, and I adjusted for it and dragged the printer away from the wall a little bit more, but I think at that point it had pushed the calibration out effectively for the print, causing it to warp effectively, or to print askew. Not ideal, but it at least proves that it's nice and tough. This is printed in PLA, this original one. I do have some nylon filament, and I have some ABS as well, just in case I want to try different materials out. It's quite lightweight, there's not a lot to it. The problem was obviously, we got the warping. 2, I lost this support from this side. It just snapped clean off. And number 3, like I said, this is supposed to be open here. This is actually support. This is support raft, as is that. And I can't get it out, to be quite honest. It's pretty much as solid as the rest of the unit is, and I can't physically. I mean, there's Raft at the bottom here as well. So I don't know if you can see very well. You can see it's got like a kind of a, there you go, like a textured kind of finish. It's because it's like it doesn't infill the raft and the support as much as it does the actual material. But it's so hard, I can't get it out. It's literally rock solid, and that goes all the way down. That goes to the entire length of this. How the hell am I supposed to get that out? So it's a screw up on my part for the design, a screw up on my part because I put the printer too close to the wall, and I suppose I wouldn't say it's a screw up, but it's kind of an unexpected consequence of the printer being that bloody good at laying down layers. But I mean, that is solid. It's PLA. PLA is meant to be actually like kind of a medium strength plastic. That is properly solid. And this, you could club someone over the head with that and give them concussion. I wouldn't recommend it, but I'm just saying you could. So it failed. So I rejigged the model, and the model is the one you can see on screen now. There's no overhangs, so there's no reason for there to be any support. As you can see, I've turned the support off for the actual print, and it's just printing in a generic PLA. It's a big printer. I mean, obviously you can see it's a relatively sizable printer. I mean, that is printing version 2 of this directly in the centre of the plate, and it's kind of there's still quite a lot of additional print space. This thing's actually big enough to print an entire wearable ODST helmet in one piece, which is kind of terrifying. But hey, it's doing it. It's doing what it needs to do. I'm happy. That's cool. So once that's done, that can be fitted into the actual cooling part of this can be fitted in. Like I said, I managed to boil this down to effectively just 3 leads. We've got the pump, which I'm running at 6 volts, which it can take 12, but I'm going to run it at 6 because it runs quiet. We have the fan on the top, which again is a 12 volt fan. I'm going to run it at 6 volts because it's quiet. And then we have the actual Peltier pump itself, which can run at 12 volts at 4.2 amps ish. And I'm probably going to get a lithium polymer battery for maybe like an RC helicopter or something like that. But you know, an 11.1 volt power pack basically, and that will power just the Peltier. The rest of this is actually going to be powered off of a very large power bank, which I have just here, which is a 30,000 milliamp hour power bank, and has 4 full-size USB ports in the top of it, so that will power pretty much everything I need it to, which is great. So, although it's noisy, and I've got more than one printer going simultaneously, and the printer kicks out quite a bit of heat, and it's quite a warm day, so I'm nice and sweaty, and I don't want to turn the fan on because I don't want to affect how the print how the print turns out. Things are good. Things are good. And the actual environment suit part is looking really, really good. So I'll wrap this up sat in the office, and I'll join you in just a second in the outside workspace. Power mic. So as we know, the the older unit has now been disassembled, and most of the components have been harvested for the new version. It's not that this one didn't work or didn't cool sufficiently, because it did. I haven't even managed to test this new version yet, so we might still revert. But I just got a feeling that one's probably going to handle high heat loads a little more effectively. So yeah, that's been disassembled and that's being dealt with. So it's from a fabrics point of view, or from the point of view of stuff that I'm generally lacking in much in the way of talent in dealing with. Obviously I'd spoken to some seamstresses, and one managed to get this sorted for me. So they've actually made it modular, so I can still, because it's still a prototype, I still want to get some of this out, put new stuff in or whatever. So they've made it so that it's all now nicely, you can see here, it's like, this is the back part here with most of the massive cables, tubes going down inside. They managed to stitch all of that in, and they've stitched the tubing in throughout here. These cables are the excess power cables for these heating pads, which they've stitched in beautifully and put in place, and I've double checked that they still work. They do, which is great. And they've even put stitched the buttons into the inside surface as well. Obviously that'll become a problem when we want to turn that on or off. I can reroute them, that's fine. And these cables I'm going to clip and trim down to size, so they're much more, much more fitted. So now that's pretty much all sewn in. I just need to, like I say, clean up all the cables hanging out of it. And like I say, the heating part of that is powered by, I'll just put that on the floor, is powered by the USB cables here. And I have another one of those rather gargantuan power packs here. And if I plug that in, and hope it doesn't blow up on me. Not that I'm saying that it would, I'm just, Right, so the heating pads are now on, or at least one half of the heating pads are on. There we go. Get our temperature gun rather, temperature laser pointy thingy. Still climbing in temperature, 42.7, 43, 44, 47. It's evening out around 47. Pretty much 47 exactly. 47 degrees centigrade. A warm bath, basically. So again, that can be powered off of a power pack. So this is really coming together. I have another
another seamstress who's actually a friend. She is currently stitching the Velcro pad unit upper pads onto the harness, effectively, that the unit itself will be mounted onto, along with putting some clips and stuff like that onto the neoprene outer layer, so it can be clipped in place and held securely. And I've also got to mark up the skin tight undersuit everywhere I'm going to have the muscle sensors, and she's going to put in the conduit in. She's going to put in where the muscle sensors are going to go with little holes that are reinforced, and she's going to put in some section pads on joints for flex sensors, which are really thin. I'm sure I've spoken about them before. They're really thin. Where's the packet for it? Ah, there it is. This is a flex sensor. It's basically a variable resistor based on how much it bends. So the more it bends, the more it resists electricity. So the idea is that the more that bends, you can use it as kind of a movement articulator, effectively, or a movement sensor. So if you put that over a joint, like the elbow, and you stitch that in like this, when it's straight, it's just nominal resistance. That's fine. As you bend, so the increase of the angle in the bend increases, so the resistance increases. And if you monitor the resistance increase of the electricity traveling through it, you can use that as a movement sensor, not just a movement sensor, but you can also use it as a double check, effectively, against the muscle sensors you've got, to tell them how far the joint is bent, and basically as a kind of as a false positive check to avoid any like miscommunication, basically, between the system and your body when you're moving the system. So that's actually pretty useful to have in place. So she's putting all those stitching in for that. She's also doing some treatment to the neoprene layer. It's a prototype. It's still not going to look quite how I want it to, but it's getting there, which is good. So that would, once she's put the conduiting and things like that, that will help for not only the muscle sensors, which will be obviously ready to go on with the muscle pads, but it also help with, for example, the gloves. This has got the carbon fiber pads in that I've showed you before. These ones simply plug in, again, USB, heats up to about 47-ish degrees, and gives you nice warm hands. Same with the boots. The insoles are already in the boots, they're ready to go. I've sent a few emails around to a few different firms in the area that do custom wetsuits to see if they'd be interested in making something that's more aesthetically in tune with the Spartan 4, Spartan 2 aesthetic. So far I've not received much in the way of correspondence back, which is massively irritating. Things are moving on. They've slowed a bit, which is marginally frustrating because I like to operate at a much faster pace than this. But it's still happening, which is good. It's good. So, yeah, there's not a lot else at the moment to tell you, other than obviously you've seen all the stuff I'm working on in the office with the unit that's going to contain all the environment systems and this, that, and the other. Once all of this comes together, phase 1 will be nearing completion. It's just then relying upon getting the helmet printed in titanium, which again I'm still waiting for the machine to be repaired so I can actually go up and get it done, which would be a fun thing to do. So yeah, things are moving on. Progress is happening. It's slow, and I'd love to show you more, obviously, but with some of the restrictions I haven't been able to actually show you the development of some of this stuff, just the results. So there's a lot of to and from communication between me and a load of different firms at the moment, trying to get stuff done and trying to get stuff contracted or listed in as it needs to be. But yeah, progress is happening. And once phase 1 is pretty much squared away, it'll be time to move on to the really interesting stuff, which is like the power systems and the movement systems and the soft armor systems. Then it'll really start coming together and looking like Spartan-esque. Well, I need to get the The hard points that you see, it's on my Spartan 4 suits mainly, but it's the hard points. I need to get those sourced. Well, not sourced, I need to design them, and I need to get them either manufactured or printed. I might print them in resin, in the resin printers I've got in there, because they're quite small. They're repeatable. You know, they don't change much in design or aesthetic from one to another. They don't change much in size. And the resin that it uses to print is really, really tough. I mean, like I said, I've printed all of the power bank casings in that resin, and you know, they're nice and solid. Case in point. So yeah, on top of all the other little bits of information that you've seen from me thus far, there's still elements of frustration, but there's also elements of excitement while I'm really pushing this forward and doing everything I can. So there's some really exciting stuff coming. Thank you again for all your support. Thank you again for, you know, helping push this project forward as it has been. I will continue to endeavour to fabricate and to show you all the things that I'm doing as often as I can, in between obviously maintaining the channel and everything like that. I've also got a really cool video coming out soon, so in fact, by the time this goes live, because like I said, I've got a backlog of content, of filmed content like this for Project MJOLNIR, who knows, it might already be out, in which case go and watch it. Yeah, that's pretty much all I've got for you. So take it easy everyone, and find peace in the domain.